Tampa General Hospital and USF Health Morsani College of Medicine are bringing the power of academic medicine to Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast. For nearly 2 decades, Tampa General has been ranked as one of the nation's best hospitals. And for over 50 years, Tampa General has been Florida's leading academic health system. Learn more about their growing network of physicians at tgh.org/the Palm Beaches. All right, so welcome back to the Palm Beach North podcast. I'm your host, Noel Martinez, and today we are joined by my friend, Alexcia Cox, Palm Beach County's newly elected state attorney for the 15th Judicial Circuit. A Palm Beach County native and seasoned prosecutor, she now leads a team of more than 100 attorneys and nearly 200 staff members all across the county. Today, we're going to talk about her background, what her first 100 days look like, and what drives her leadership and community impact. My dear friend, Alexcia, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know how hard you work to get elected. So we are super, super proud of you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you giving me some time in your 100 plus first 100 plus days.
Of course.
You were born and raised right here in Palm Beach County. You're one of us. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing, where you grew up.
Yeah. So, I was born at Palm Beach Gardens Hospital. My parents lived in Palm Beach County. They actually met in college. And my mom was from Palm Beach County. My dad's from Miami. So they settled here in Palm Beach County. When I was about 4 years old, we moved to Royal Palm. And so I attended school, elementary, middle school out in Royal Palm Beach. And then I attended Suncoast High School for high school. And it's interesting. My mom actually was a graduate of Suncoast High School. Also, my son is a graduate of Suncoast High School. So, you know, my roots in the community they're strong, they're deep, and they're real. I was very active growing up in the community. My mom would have me involved in everything from Girl Scouts to dance. I played tennis for a little bit. And I just got to meet some really great people. My family is filled with great folks. My grandparents lived here. And so I was raised with the mindset of community and it taking a village to raise a child, you know, and I think I carry that with me today. And it's really shaped who I am as a leader. After I graduated from Suncoast High School, I would say a nerd, maybe. Some folks might call me that. I love to read. I was always very curious, very ambitious. You know, my dad tells a story about, he says, you know, I never saw you not accomplish a goal. He said, there was one time that you went out for something that you didn't get. And that was when I thought I would be able to play basketball, girls basketball, when I was in middle school. And I was determined to learn how to do a layup. Never got it quite right. But I kept trying and I did not make the team. My friends made the team, but I didn't. And my dad said to me, he said, you know, you didn't give up and take that as, you know, a loss. He said, all of a sudden you taught yourself how to keep basketball stats. And I became the team statistician. I knew nothing about basketball stats at all, but I tell that story because it reminds me and my family about how, you know, this community shaped me, my family shaped me, my school, my teachers, everything that I learned in Palm Beach County shaped me into the leader I am right now. So I'm truly, truly blessed to be a product of this community and to have found a way to give back in a very impactful way.
So was there ever a defining moment or a person that really inspired you to pursue a career in law?
Okay, I'll have to tell you the story. So after I graduated from Suncoast High School, I went off to the University of Central Florida, and I minored in Spanish and majored in interpersonal communication. I didn't know what I was going to do with those degrees, but I knew I was going to study hard. I wanted to graduate with honors. I really wanted to excel. So I put a lot of time and energy into campus life, into serving the community in Orlando, and into my studies. So maybe going into my end of sophomore year or so, I decided that I was going to go to law school, and I had this bright idea that I would become a sports agent. Now, again, I'm not athletic, okay?
But I have to be athletic.
I'm not athletic. I've never really played a team sport. I've watched them, but I just knew that I had what it took to become a sports agent. Now, where that came from, I don't know any sports agents. I just thought that it would be a great career path for me. So I knew that I would combine my love for Spanish language. I had been taking Spanish courses since middle school, and my desire to go to law school and learn the law and really help navigate, athletes from across the world, to be able to communicate with them in their native language, and to help them, excel professionally. That was my thought. That was my dream. What happened was I ended up enrolling in Florida State University College of Law after graduating from UCF. And at some point, I got involved in some sport. I took a lot of sports law classes, entertainment law classes, and I just didn't feel the passion. I didn't feel the pull. So I started trying to figure out, well, what is it that I want to do? And I interned at the State Attorney's Office in Tallahassee, Second Judicial Circuit. And I was able to try 2 cases while I was there. And the feeling that I got from helping someone who was a victim of a crime, I just knew that that's what I was called to do. And, the rest is history. I took the bar exam on a Tuesday and Wednesday. I went back to my apartment in Tallahassee, cleaned it out, and I started working at the State Attorney's Office here in Palm Beach County the following Monday.
How long ago was that?
That was, oh my gosh, almost 20. It's been 20 years. That was 2005.
Oh my gosh. That's great. Great. So I've heard you say mentors matter.
Yeah.
Right. I've heard you say that multiple times. Tell me about a mentor who has had a lasting impact on you.
I wish I could identify one, but I can't, because there's so many people who poured into my life. And without them pushing me or challenging me or holding a door open for me, I would not be where I am today. And it started with my parents. My mom and my dad, they taught me to be brave, to be courageous, to help other people. And they laugh a lot now because they're like, you were just bound for this was supposed to be your journey. You were always talking and always standing up. You always felt like you needed to stand up for other people, but they encouraged that. And they allowed me to be my true and authentic self, even as a child. I then had my grandmother who, I'll never forget, I was in the county spelling bee because I was, I think, second place of my school spelling bee, and we go on to the county spelling bee. And the word that I missed, and I won't say the word, but my grandmother wrote it down, and she would challenge me to spell it every time she saw me. And I would hate it, but it taught me, just how important it was to always strive for excellence, to always do better, try to do better than the day before. And, then I took those lessons from my family to also lend my talents, my time to other people, because I believe mentors matter. And I wanted to be that one person that some person could look to and say, but for Alexcia, giving me advice or pouring into me, I don't know where I would be today. And so from a very early part in my career, I started mentoring. As soon as I got back to Palm Beach County, I actually started looking for people to mentor. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but because I wanted to make sure that I left a legacy, and I wanted to make sure that people knew that they weren't alone. Like, if someone has done what you're trying to do, and if I can help you get to where you need to go, I want to be that person that holds your hand and helps you get there. So because I had so many people in my career who held my hand and helped me get places, I knew that it was important to do the same. And a young lady who I started mentoring her through Big Brothers Big Sisters when she was in middle school. We've been together for many, many years. She's graduated college. She's working and starting her career. I'm trying to encourage her to go to law school now, but it just really demonstrates how important it is to reach out to a young person and show them that you care about them, you care about their journey. And I'm just honored to be a part of her life and the lives of so many other young people, young adults that I have the pleasure of mentoring.
Well, you talked a little bit about your journey there, right? So let's talk about your legal journey.
Okay.
And tell me, you've prosecuted some of the most serious cases, everything from domestic violence to elder abuse, even first-degree murder. What did those experiences teach you?
I think the biggest lesson I learned was from my domestic violence cases. So I started my career when I came to Palm Beach County. Day one, I was assigned to the misdemeanor domestic violence unit. And, you think people think they understand what domestic violence is like, what being a victim is like. And until you're actually working with people who are going through or experiencing some of the worst possible moments of their lives, you really have no idea what that's like. So my journey from, starting my career in domestic violence, it taught me to not judge, to be there to help, to understand that my role is to keep the community safe. My role is to support victims. My role is to be fair. I also like to pour that into my leadership because I think for me, I strive for excellence in all that I do, not perfection. I think perfection is great, but no one's perfect. So my goal and what I pass down to the prosecutors I have the pleasure of leading is to strive for excellence. And if you do that, you're going to be great. You're going to do great things. And so that's what I learned is that, people in the community, they count on us. They count on prosecutors, police officers to help keep this community safe, to make sure that, when someone commits a crime in our community, that they're held accountable. And I'm really fortunate to have had such a long career doing that. It's not always the cases that have been high profile, that are on TV, that even make the most impact. I remember those moments where, there were no cameras, there was no audience, and I'm standing in court with a woman who's been a victim of domestic violence for years. And this one time she found the strength to use her voice and stand up, in court and hold her abuser accountable. And I'm there with her, encouraging her. I'm there while she's shaking and crying, not sure that she'll be able to do it. And I'm holding her hand in court, talking her through it. It's those moments that I remember and that are so rewarding when no one else may know about them except for, she and I. But I hold those moments really dear to me because it reminds me how important the job that I get to do every day is to this community.
So you rose through the ranks to become the first deputy chief assistant under Dave Aronberg. Mm-hmm. What leadership lessons did you take from that chapter of your career?
Well, I'm so fortunate that at the time, State Attorney Aronberg, he decided to expand his leadership team. And he had already chief assistants, but he decided to add a deputy chief assistant. And he did not have anyone in that role before. But he allowed me to be elevated and show that I could do more in leadership in the office. And I think what I took from that experience was that, sometimes you're ready for things and you don't know whether people see it in you or not, but you have to be ready to walk through that door when an opportunity comes to you. And honestly, that represents several moments of my life story, especially, when it came to campaigning, et cetera. Being ready is it's not a feeling, it's a decision. And I decided that I was ready to elevate my leadership in the office and to the community. And so when that situation presented itself to me, I was honored to become his deputy chief assistant. I had already been the chief of our domestic violence unit for maybe about 10 years or so. And so when he gave me that opportunity to elevate in the office, it opened a lot of doors for me to get to know more about our office, to have a seat at the table where the big decisions were made in the office. And honestly, that was a huge stepping stone to getting to where I am today.
So as a woman of color, what were some of the challenges that you faced along the way and how did you overcome them?
Well, so statistically, African Americans represent less than 5% of lawyers in the country. And I think even less are prosecutors. and less than that are elected prosecutors. So for me, there are times when you might enter into spaces where you're the only one or one of very few. And, I didn't look at it as something, that was negative. I just always wanted to leave a good impression and make a positive impact, no matter where I am. Right now I have the opportunity of being the first, to hold this position, the first woman, the first African American, but I never ran to be the first. That wasn't what it was for me, to be the first. It was about being the best. Should I hold this position? Should I hold this office? I want to be the best that there ever to have ever done it. And that's what I've carried with me as a woman of color in this profession. I think, challenges come to you regardless of whether you're the first or not, or one of few. And I can tell you that what I learned is to show up authentically, and not to dim my light or to somehow feel the need to change anything about who I am in order to, do the work that I'm doing. And that's whether I was deputy chief or chief of the domestic violence unit and now as state attorney.
So I want people to really understand what you do. A lot of people don't know, right, what a state attorney does. So tell me a little bit about what you do specifically in your role.
Well, as state attorney, I am the chief law enforcement officer in our county. And what we do as an office is we represent the state, the people of the state of Florida, in prosecuting criminal law violations. As you mentioned earlier, I have about 115 attorneys, 180 support staff, and that includes everything from, HR professionals, folks that work on the budget, to an investigations team, lawyers who are in our county court division, which are misdemeanor cases, all the way up to those who are handling capital murder cases, capital sex battery cases. So we have juvenile cases, everything in between. That is what we do every day, which is to make sure that if someone is arrested and charged with a crime, that we are reviewing the case, the information that comes to us from law enforcement. We are making sure that when we review the case, that the law and the facts support us filing charges on that case, because, just because a case comes into our office from law enforcement, it doesn't mean that we have to charge it. If there may not be enough information or enough evidence to meet the elements for us to meet our burden, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. So we're looking at it to make sure that the evidence that we need in order to prove this case exists. And based on the law, the statutes, the jury instructions, we have what we need to be able to prove it. And if we do, then we'll file the appropriate charges. We then go into the courtrooms and we litigate the case up until it either pleads out or it goes to trial. And if it goes to trial, members of our office will take the case to trial, and hopefully we're successful. And if we're successful, then we make a recommendation to the court for an appropriate sentence. And that's what we do day in and day out. Our office is a 24/7 operation. Although the office technically is closed at 5 p.m., we have attorneys who are on call every single night to assist law enforcement with search warrants or anything that they need to further their investigations on cases that happen after hours. In addition to that, we have to staff the courtroom at Gun Club, which is where first appearances take place every single day. And that means whether it's a hurricane, Christmas, Thanksgiving, weekends, someone is there to handle those cases every single day, and to make sure that we are letting the court know about someone's criminal history or what we feel is appropriate in terms of their release conditions. And that's a function of our office as well. So I think people may sometimes think that our job is just limited to being in court all day, because you watch Law and Order or some of these other shows that show our work. But really, a lot of the time is spent in the office, looking at the evidence, reviewing case law, filing motions, talking to victims, making sure that we have all the information and all the tools that we need to build successful prosecutable cases. And, that's what we do. And we're really proud of the work, and we do great work for the people of Palm Beach County.
What does your typical day look like? I'm sure it's different every day,
Yeah.
but typically, what does your day look like? What time do you get up? What time do you go to bed? Do you even get a lunch break? Like, tell me about your day.
So I often don't get lunch breaks. Today, I hope you don't hear my stomach growling, but and it's because I don't even sometimes think about lunch. I get into the office. I'm first of all, let me say this. I am definitely a night owl. So sometimes I don't go to bed until after midnight. If something pops in my head, I'm jotting it down, making a note, sending an email, and I try not to email late. So sometimes I'll email myself to remind myself to email a person in the morning, but I'm usually up late. I stay to the office, maybe 7, 8 o'clock. Because I like to be there for the end of the day. I like to check in on folks at the end of the day, see how their day went. Throughout the day, I'm in meetings. I get a lot of phone calls, but I have a lot of meetings. I consider this, what we're in right now, as my transitional year. And so what we're doing now is just looking at all of our processes, our policies, our positions to see, well, what works for this new administration that we're in right now, my administration. And so that means my day is filled with a lot of meetings. I talk to a lot of organizations and groups who are concerned about public safety, some who never even really thought about how public safety and the work that we do at the state attorney's office impacts their work. So I am trying to bring the message of public safety to all corners of Palm Beach County. And that's really what my day is filled with, whether it's meeting with my team or going out in the community to talk to groups or folks that just want to hear from the state attorney's office and what we're doing.
So we talked about it earlier. You manage a huge team countywide. They're all over the place. How do you approach leadership and culture in your office?
I believe in servant leadership, and the concept that I am most fond of is leading from the front. And that means to me being someone who protects my team. I stand with them. I believe, and it's an overused term now, but I believe in having boots on the ground and making sure that I pour into my office just as much as I pour out into the community. And that means making sure that we are well-trained professionals, not just prosecutors, but I want a team of dedicated, well-trained, well-equipped professionals. And that is something that I strive to give to them each and every day. The saying that, charity starts at home first. I want to make sure that my team is good. And so we've put some things in place to really make sure that we're looking at how we can be better as an office. In addition to that, we're all about making sure that we engage more with the community. And so that's because of who I've been as a servant leader in the community. I didn't, change. I believe that I still have an obligation and a duty to engage the community, to show up, to be present every day of the week. Almost, I'm going someplace, whether it's in the evening. I had events over the weekend, but that's what this job, I believe, requires. It requires someone who wants to reach out into the community and touch people so that they know how important the work is, that we see you no matter where you live, no matter what your zip code is, whether you're in an affluent neighborhood or one that is not, that you have a state attorney's office that will show up for you and who wants to make sure that you have a safe community.
Let's talk about accountability. What does that look like in the criminal justice system? And especially when it comes to your prosecutors, what does that look like?
So for me, it's 3 pillars: excellence, integrity, fairness. And I think that's what I preach to the team, and I try to model it. And excellence is just what it is. It's a goal. We want to do things with a spirit of excellence each and every day. When I talk about integrity, obviously that's what we're doing. The work that we do is hard work. It's also hard work. And I'll just tell you this, every time we bring in a new class of prosecutors, I always pick up my pen and I explain to them the power of the pen, because, as attorneys, all attorneys, we're signing paperwork, documents each and every day. When a prosecutor picks up his or her pen and we sign a document, oftentimes, filing charges against someone or, any other documents that we may sign, it changes. It's so powerful because it can change the course of someone's entire life. It could change generations of their family. So we have to make sure that when we do it, we're doing it for the right reasons. We feel good about it. We've done our research and we're making a good judgment call based on the information that we have available to us. And it's not a responsibility that you can take lightly. It's very important, very serious work. And so integrity is something that you have to have in order to do this type of work. And then we talk about fairness. And that goes without saying. When you're talking about prosecuting people for crimes, you want to make sure that you are fair-minded in how you do that, how you apply the law. And so for me, it's all about excellence, integrity, and fairness. Now, when we're talking about the office, there are 3 C's that I look to, and those are competency, character, and culture. And for our office, it's a culture of service. And I have to have people that understand you got to be competent to do this work. And that means making sure that you feel like you know what you're doing. And if you need help, ask for it and we can help get you trained and guide you. Character is important because you have to just be good. You have to be someone of good character. You want to do the right things for the right reasons. And if you make a mistake, you're ready to own up to it. And then when we talk about a culture of service, that means you're responsible for your work and you're responsible to the community. And sometimes our work has to exist outside of the 4 walls of the office. So if you don't understand that we are public servants and you don't have a love for serving the community, then it may not be the best place for you.
This has been awesome. Great conversation so far. You know what? This is a perfect time to take a quick little break for our medical minute. We'll be back in about 60 seconds.
Okay.
So we're talking with Dr. Lori Rothman with TGH's Concierge Health. Doc, everybody's doing this now. Why is it so popular?
I think concierge medicine is popular now because there are fewer primary care doctors and there's an absolute shortage of primary care physicians. Concierge medicine is a membership practice where your doctor takes a limited number of patients, and this way you have more access to care and you can get seen when you need to.
So what are the benefits?
I think the greatest benefit is the personal relationship that you develop with your physician. Your doctor has time to spend with you, and when you need to be seen, your doctor's available. In addition, you'll have longer extended appointment times, and you'll have a 24/7 access. If you don't feel well on a Saturday night, you can call me.
And what should I look for if I'm looking for a new concierge physician?
I think same things you'd want to look for in any doctor. What are their credentials? Where did they go to?
We're back. And you just wrapped up your first 100 days in office. What were your biggest priorities coming in?
Community engagement, huge. I wanted to establish a dedicated elder crimes unit. That was really important. And that's been done. I wanted to make sure that we are tackling violent crime and repeat offenders. We've done that by creating our violent repeat offender unit, by creating our gangs, guns, and drug trafficking unit. We have created our robbery and re-implemented a robbery unit where we're focusing on 1020 life robbery cases. I've been really out in the community and getting folks from my office to help me go out in the community to educate, whether it's awareness events and activities. We had our annual walk for victims that we rebranded as Souls for Justice, SOLES for Justice. And it was well attended. I mean, it was fantastic. So the things that I was focused on, which were, making sure that public safety was a priority, tackling hate crimes, making sure that our domestic violence unit was well staffed and better equipped, having this violent repeat offender unit be well staffed and have the tools that they need, creating a special prosecutions unit so that we can have some folks dedicated to animal cruelty cases, which are really, really important cases to people in our community. I get calls all the time about animal cases. And I know that that's something that touches a lot of people. In addition to that, making sure that we have someone dedicated to respond to environmental crimes. When you're talking about, dumping and illegal dumping, things that create safety risks in our community. People don't think about that when they think about prosecutors, but these are criminal law violations. So I worked really hard to hear from the community, the law enforcement community, the community at large, to see if there were any gaps in service and what we can add to what we already had in the office. And we were able to plug those gaps, and we're still working on it. But I think that this first 100 days has been nothing short of amazing. And I'm really proud of my team and what we've been able to accomplish together.
All right, well, give me one thing that you're super proud of and one thing that was like, oh my God, that was surprising. I didn't expect that. Give me one and one.
Okay. One thing that I am super proud of is that, gosh, there's so many things that are just all going through my brain. I am very proud of the way that my team responded to the new vision and direction I had for the office. Understanding that these are the people who I had worked with for almost 2 decades. Many of them were, I tease that, I was in leadership for a while, and I would see all of them when they just came in from law school. And I'd say, I feel like I brought you home from the hospital, because they started their career oftentimes on my floor, and some of them in my unit. And, to be their leader now, you just never know how people are going to respond to that. And I'm really proud that they allowed me to meet with them. When I first came in, I opened up my calendar for 3 weeks, and I said, anyone who wants to meet with me, come on in. And people were lined up to meet with me and tell me what their goals were, how, what they think we can do better, what they like that we're doing, what we can change. And all of that information, I put it all together. And that's how I started to shape policy. That's how I started looking at the office in terms of what we can do better. And it's because of my ability to listen to these folks who were my coworkers and colleagues for many years, and start implementing ideas from them, being collaborative. So I'm really proud that we were able to write the story for the next chapter of our office together. The thing that would surprise me is how many people don't know what we do at the state attorney's office. People who think that, the work is out of Tallahassee, or people who think that I have, the ability to change their property insurance rates, or they don't know what the state attorney's office does. So I'm grateful for opportunities like this to reach out into the community and to let them know that, we're the people that, although we're not on the front lines responding to crime scenes, we take that ball, and we have to run it into the end zone to make sure that once police arrest someone, we're helping them build a good case that we can prosecute and hopefully get folks who commit crimes, who are repeat offenders, who are violent offenders, who use guns, who make our neighborhoods unsafe, get them out of our communities and get justice that the community deserves.
All right, let's talk a little bit about public safety and justice reform. All right. How are you balancing public safety with the need for smart criminal justice reform? How do you do that? Well,
I think it's really simple in that you listen to the community, and we've done that for many years, and we haven't stopped doing that. I go out, I listen, and I hear from the community, and people in the community, they want accountability. They want to make sure that no one is treated as though they're above the law, and that no one is ignored either as though they're beneath it. And so my job is to make sure that no matter what type of changes are made, what type of innovation we might want to think through, that public safety remains top priority. And sometimes it's an interesting balance. There are some people who think you should be doing all these great things, but if they're not in alignment with public safety and what the people of Palm Beach County want, then I'm not doing it, because I was elected by by the voters in Palm Beach County to do one thing, and that is to make sure that I help keep this community safe. And that is something that I vowed to do. My family's here. I just celebrated the birth date of my aunt who turned 105. So this community is special to me, and I want to make sure that it's as safe as possible. So when we talk about public safety and also smart justice, we're just looking at data. We're looking at ways that we can make our job a little bit more lighter on prosecutors in a sense, because we want to make sure that we're efficient and we're able to get the job done. Because as our community changes and grows, oftentimes that might mean more cases that we may see, but making sure that we are balancing the need for change with public safety. Public safety is always going to be number one.
You talked about people really don't know what your office does. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that the public has about your office or honestly, even about the justice system in general?
Well, I think, there are people that sometimes believe that, we don't work hard. You get cases, they come from the police,
It's a done deal, rubber stamp, it's over.
Yeah, we rubber stamp, we receive almost 50,000 cases each year. And like I said, I have right now maybe about 115 prosecutors in the office. That's a lot of work. And then with the implementation of digital evidence, whether it's from body-worn cameras or other types of technology, that increases the workload. So here we are being asked to do more with less. And we do it because we're passionate about making sure that the work of the state attorney's office is done with excellence and integrity and all those things. But we also do it because we're passionate about seeking justice and holding bad actors accountable. So in doing that, I think people just have this perception that, the goal is just to, get convictions or to just, everything that comes into our office, we just, sign the documents on the dotted line and we're just out there trying to get convictions. And nothing can be further from the truth. Our job is to do justice. We do justice. We follow the law. Whatever the law says, that's what we do. We follow it, we enforce it. And at the end of the day, we do justice. And if that means that, a crime, we believe that it has occurred, but we aren't unable to prove it, then we have to accept that. If that means that we take a case to trial and the jury finds the person not guilty or acquits them, then we have to respect, the jury's decision. So the job, number one, is to do justice and to be fair and to make sure that everything that we do is in line with what the law says we're supposed to be doing.
Are there any initiatives right now that you guys are working on or focused on that are to help prevent crime before it happens? Excuse me.
So crime prevention is really interesting because I know that I do a lot of work with police agencies, especially, when they have events, we go out, we're there to support and to make sure that we can lend ourselves to that conversation about crime prevention. I mean, obviously our first role is criminal prosecution, which is responsive. We're responding to a crime that has already occurred. In order to prevent crime, I believe public trust is one of the best ways. And in order to get public trust, you have to get out and know the community. You have to show the community that you're there working for them. And with that, I think that's when you'll have people wanting to, report crimes that are occurring in their neighborhood, people wanting to not do crimes because they see that, the state attorney's office and law enforcement, I mean, we are cracking down. We want to make sure that if you do the crime, that you're held accountable. And we do that by working together, collaborating with law enforcement and other stakeholders in our community to see if there are ways or innovative approaches that we can employ to help prevent crimes in our neighborhoods. One example I can tell you briefly is when I was the chief of the domestic violence unit, one of the things that we saw was that, there were these cases where it might be a first time of domestic violence, misdemeanor domestic violence. And the victim at the time was just not ready to hold the person accountable. They weren't ready to prosecute. And we were seeing a lot of those cases were just dropped. And I felt that there needed to be intervention because intervention leads to prevention. And so I was able to develop what we called our first time offender program. And what that did was it allowed people who were experiencing a first time of violence, victims as well as the accused, go through some type of intervention classes for both sides and hopefully prevent a second incident of violence, because we were finding that most of these people stayed in the relationships. And if they knew resources, how to deal with triggers and how to respond in a way that did not get them a case in our office, we were not just, responding to crime. We were actually doing something that prevented it. And that is still going on to this day. I think it's been over a decade now, and it's been a successful program for us.
Let's look ahead. What does long-term success look like for you? Are there any metrics or outcomes that really matter to you?
Well, we always look at data. The data says that our office is doing a great job. We're doing great when it comes to our filing rates on cases. We're doing really wonderful job as it relates to our conviction rates and our successes. But, for me, I look at and I respond to how the community feels. Because if you live in a community that and you feel unsafe there, the numbers, the data, the statistics, they don't matter to you, because you're in a place where you feel that, hey, well, every time I call the police, nothing happens, or, I'm afraid for my children to walk to school by themselves. And so I want to make sure that the person who lives in a community like that feels the same way, or at least to the best of my ability, as a person who lives in a community where they never see crime. They don't experience it. And I think that the numbers, while they are important, they don't tell the whole story. And so getting out in the community and hearing from the community. When I go around, whether it's the mall, I go to get something to eat, and someone comes up to me and they brag on my office and they tell me how someone in the office helped them, or wow, I had someone really fight for me on one of those cases. That is the metric. That's what matters, because that means that we are making an impact in the community, and the numbers may not tell that story.
All right, so let's stick with community. We talked earlier about mentoring and why it's so important to you. You said that at the beginning. You're also involved with a lot of different organizations, everything from Leadership Florida to YWCA, your sorority, and so much more, right? First of all, why do you do that? And how have those communities influenced you over time?
Great question. Servant leadership is who I am at the core. And, I'll never forget, someone asked me, they were appointing me to a board, and they said, well, I just want to know, this was a few years ago, do you do all of this because you have political aspirations, or you want to be a judge or something? And at that time I said, no, I just do it because I believe service is required of me, and they said, wow, that's really interesting. You really believe that? I said, yeah, because I serve for the Florida Bar on committees and committees. I've chaired committees for the Palm Beach County Bar, serving on committees and chairing committees in community organizations, because service is required of me. And I think that you can walk around your life and spend many, many years never serving a person, and you will miss out on so much of what you get back when you give service to others in the community. And I think that's what got me to where I am today, because when I did decide that I was going to run for office, I was able to draw on so many experiences, so many of the people that I've met in those different organizations. And that's what propelled me, I think, to get here, my campaign, and helped shape the message that I wanted to deliver to the community. And so you cannot, there's not much more I can say other than that service is what I feel is required of me. And I don't think I could live a day on this earth without thinking about how I can give more, how I can serve more.
So I want to close this out with some questions about you, because I think you're such an awesome person. What is one thing about Alexcia Cox that people do not know?
Well, you will not believe this, but I am incredibly shy. Like I said, I was a bookworm, grew up and I'm that kid that would love to just spend all day in my room reading. And that kid grew up into the adult who would love to just spend all day in my room reading. But over time, you just get out there and you network, and you have to push past the boundaries that you set and the limitations you set for yourself. And so, people who really know me, I think they were a little surprised that I ran for office, because I've always been really, really quiet, really shy. And I just like to do my work, do a good job, and support other people and serve. I think that would probably be what's shocking. And I just love to meet new people and network and figure out ways that I can help my community be better.
How do you stay grounded in such a high pressure role? Because my God, you're always under a lot of scrutiny.
Well, I would say prayer. I'm a person of faith, and I know that, you have to have something that you hold on to, because if not, as life, goes back and forth, it ebbs and flows, good days, bad days. Sometimes it can consume you if you don't have something that really anchors you and pulls you together. And so my faith, my prayers, I just believe that there are certain things that are outside of my control. And if I can handle well the things that are in my control, I've just been raised and I've been taught throughout my journey as a Christian that, God will take care of the rest. And so that's how I'm able to, go to sleep at night knowing that I've done a good job. I've shown up well today. And at the end of every day, what I say to myself a little, I guess it's a few words of affirmation. And I say, well, you know what? Good job, Alexcia. You conquered the day. And that's how I remind myself that tomorrow's a new day. It's going to be a new adventure. Something really great could happen. Something terrible could happen. But as long as you work hard and conquer the day, you'll be just fine.
Alexcia, if you could send one message to the people of Palm Beach County about your vision for justice, what would that message be?
So I have ushered in what I like to call a new standard of service. And so I would tell the people of Palm Beach County to know to know that that's what they have to look forward to. Someone who believes that I have to elevate the standard of service that the Office of the State Attorney gives to the community. And I'm unapologetic about that being what is required of me. I believe in being out there. You will see me. If you haven't already, you can find me. We've on social media. You can find our office on all social media platforms, because we are putting out, we're telling our own story. And we want the people of Palm Beach County to know what we're doing and how well we're doing it. So be on the lookout for a new standard of service. Awesome. I love it. Anything we've forgotten? Anything I didn't bring up? What do you think? How do we do? I think we did well. I thought we did great. This office is it's huge. I don't know if people know that we have, 5 offices in Palm Beach County. So we're not just downtown. We have North County and Palm Beach Gardens. South County office is in Delray. We have an office on the jail at Gun Club. We have an office out in Belle Glade. And then we have our main office downtown West Palm Beach. And so there's staff and attorneys working at each of those locations to make sure that we're able to touch all 4 corners of Palm Beach County community. So we are, listen, just be on the lookout, because we're doing great things over there. We really are. And I'm proud to be the leader for this moment of our office's history, for this moment, because you can look out and see the community is changing, and depending on who you are, some think it's great, some think, it's not. I don't hold an opinion, but I know that my job is to make sure that whatever happens in Palm Beach County, we're ready to respond, and we're ready to act accordingly to protect and keep the community safe. Well, Alexcia, this has been amazing. What a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time. From the first day I met you, I've always been so impressed by you. Palm Beach County is so lucky to have you as our state attorney. So thank you so much. Congratulations again
on your election. And we really, really appreciate not only for your time today, but all you do for the community. And you're the best. We really appreciate you.
I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's all we got for you today. Don't forget to like, share, follow, tell all your friends about all the amazing things going on in Palm Beach North. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.